meetings work a little bit. So everyone here, if you're an undergraduate student, if you're a member of the Federation of Students, you have the ability to talk here. This is the highest body of Feds, but we do have some order around when people speak, etc. So on each motion, there's a maximum of 2 speaking turns, and as well, when we're speaking, just raise your hand to be identified. If there are a lot of people that want to speak, I'll start a speakers list, and I'll recognize you and start that speakers list so that everyone can have their voice heard. But following that, we'll have people in order. And please, when you're starting to speak, just say what your name is so that the person taking minutes can record that and have that noted for our next general meeting when we approve the minutes. So with that, we'll start with the first item of business, which is to be it resolved that whenever you see Bert, it means be it resolved that. It's just formal language. That the general meeting approves the agenda. So I'll ask for a mover of this. Can you state your name? McGinnis moves it, seconded by Stefan Hamaded. Okay, so discussion, I'll start. Is there any discussion on this motion? Yeah, I'll see you in the back and then I'll... Sorry. We'll give you a mic to speak. It's right behind you, actually. So if you could just speak into the mic so everyone can hear.
I'd like to motion to move the BODS election to the beginning of the agenda.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that motion, for that amendment? Okay. Could you state your name?
Sarah Rose Lancaster.
And then?
Selesky.
Yeah. Great. So we had the amendment to the agenda just presented, so I'll just show the agenda. It's also available online at feds.ca. If you just go to the About section on General Meetings, that's where you'll see it. So the motion is to, Is it number 10, this one here that I've highlighted, just to be clear? Yeah? Cool. So the motion is to move this part of the agenda up to the beginning of the agenda. And I'll just try to make it all in one. Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, so is there any discussion on this? Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Sean Hunt. So as you may have seen, I'm bringing an amendment to the bylaws, a motion to change how the Federation works as item 9 on the agenda. And I'm not going to get too much into what exactly I'm trying to do, but I'd like to change the way that the Board of Directors is elected here. Currently, it's 5 members elected who must be from Students' Council. I would like to make that 2 members who must be from Students' Council and 5 general members. It's my understanding that there's a member here who'd like to reduce the 5 general members to 3, and that would mean that if we elect the board first, we'll already have 5 members of the board, so my amendment, even if it passes at this meeting, won't actually matter until next year when we elect the next year's Board of Directors. As a result, I'd like to ask that we leave the Board of Directors elections after my amendments. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Just in the back, and then I'll go to here. Did you want to speak? No? Okay, go ahead. Wait for the mic, though.
I think that...
Sorry, can you state your name?
Oh, I'm David Birnbaum. I think that's well and good, but I think if we elect the 5 councillors now, I don't have a problem with your amendment waiting. I think there's a lot of more involved discussion about your amendment anyways, so I don't think we should vote this down specifically because you have something else on the agenda. If you'd like to amend to have that discussion first, immediately followed by the board, that would be okay, but a lot of us have class that we have to get to, and we feel that electing the board is very important, and we'd like to do that before we have to leave for class.
Okay, so just to clarify, Sean Hunt spoke against the motion. David, I believe your name is, spoke in favor of the motion. Any other discussion? Yep.
I would like to propose an amendment to the motion to amend the agenda to put items 9 and 10, or 8, 9, and 10 above at the start of the agenda.
Okay, so the motion, okay, so this is what happens when you make amendments. So we started with the motion to approve the agenda. Then the amendment was suggested to move number 10 to the start of the agenda. And now the amendment to the amendment is to move items 8, 9, and 10 to the beginning of the agenda. Is that correct? Great. Is there a seconder for that amendment? Could you state your name?
Paul Sear.
Okay, so that's the seconder. Is there any discussion on this? Yep.
Just as a point of order, I don't think the amendment is allowed because it broadens the scope of the amendment, and they can only refine the scope. So I think that's out of order.
I see it as allowable as chair. You're welcome to challenge me as chair, and we can vote on that if you so desire. Is there any other discussion on the amendment to the amendment? Just to be clear, we can't make any more amendments to the amendment. Could
you grab to your microphone? My name is Josh. I just want to say that I'm in support of the new amendment.
Okay, is there any other discussion on this amendment to the amendment? Just a second, we'll get the microphone here. And please state your name before.
I'm Sean Hunt again. If items 8, which my amendment depends on, and 9 are moved as well, then I'm in favor of this as well.
Okay, is there any more discussion on the amendment to the amendment? Yeah, so I'll just repeat. So the amendment is to the amendment. The amendment originally read, move item number 9 to the beginning of the agenda so that we'd vote board members at the beginning. Then the amendment to that amendment was to move both 8, 9, and 10 to the beginning of the agenda. Is there any more discussion on this amendment? Alex, can you help me count when we're voting? Thanks. Is there any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll put it to a vote. Just to be clear, before we raise our placards, I will first ask for all those in favor. Please hold your placards in the air so that we can see them. And then I'll ask for all those against. Again, raise your placards in the air. I'll also ask all those abstaining to raise their placards in the air. Feel free to abstain if you don't have an opinion on this. That's an option as well. So the discussion is over. All those in favor of the amendment to the amendment, please hold them in the air so that we can count. Okay. Oh, okay. Can you count on this side too? Can you keep them up in the air? Okay, so that's 32 in favor. All those against, please raise your placards. Nice and high, please. All those against. It's failed. Okay, all those abstaining? Okay, great. So that's 32 in favor, 45 against, so the motion fails. That amendment to the amendment fails. Now, since that failed, we move back a step. So we move back to that amendment to the main motion. That amendment was simply to move item number 10 to the beginning of the agenda. Is there any discussion on this amendment? Yeah, we'll just get the microphone to you. Thanks, Christina.
If I'm understanding, sorry, Josh. If I'm understanding this correctly, we'd be bypassing some of the things that are on the agenda, and I don't really see the point in doing that. This is a meeting, so let's go through the agenda.
So are you speaking in favor or against? Against, thanks. Another person speaking, and then I have you next.
Obviously, this is a meeting and there is an agenda. We're just saying that some of us have to go to class, and this is what we feel most, we find is the most important. So we'd like to do this first, and then go through the rest. Like, we're still going to get to everything on the agenda.
Okay, and then over here on the left, is there anybody else who would like to speak to this? Okay, great. We'll have you next.
I'm going to speak in favor of this. I think particularly because it bypasses Sean's motion of modifying how the board of directors would be elected. I think as it is, sorry, excuse me, I just got to get my thoughts together. So the people were expecting to come here and vote for board of directors from council. Many councillors for the upcoming year might have even run specifically for that purpose, to be on the board of directors. Other students who may have wished to be on the board of directors who are not on students' council might have wanted to be here, and it becomes slightly unfair towards them. And I think rushing this for that reason is unfair. I know some people are going to say, if you were really interested, you could have known, but I work for Feds, I attend council meetings, and this is the first I've heard of that motion. So I don't think people are sufficiently well informed to make that argument.
Thank you. I have 3 people on the speakers list now.
Hi, my name is Darcy. I understand, though, is that the way that we are going to vote on the board of directors directly depends on the result that the result of item number 9, and I think that we as a body should be able to decide how we want to feel about item 9 before voting at item 10, because it will have a direct effect on how we do so.
Great, thanks. Go ahead and please speak. You're going to pass on your speaking turn? Okay. You're going to pass on your speaking turn as well. Is there any other discussion? Okay. We'll have a vote on this. So this is, just to clarify before we vote, this is moving item number 10 on the agenda to the beginning of the agenda, so that it's the first thing that we do. Is there any? Yeah, okay. All those in favor, please raise your placards high. Can you count them all? What did you say? Oh, I got 50. Oh, total. Oh, you count. Oh, that's 51.
He counts one side, we count both.
Got it. You just count that side. Okay, good. Okay, thanks. All those against, we're just realizing that some people were counting both and just, yeah. So raise your hand up if you're against this amendment. Yes, so that. And you got it. Okay. Cool. Yeah, that sounds perfect. Okay, all those abstaining and they'd like to be noted in the minutes? Okay, so that motion passes. It had 51 in favor and 23 against. So the next item. So now that was an amendment to the agenda. We still have to prove the agenda. So we'd like to do that now. It's already been moved, so is there any other discussion on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote on that. All those in favor? This is approving the agenda. Yes, to item 2, the next thing on the agenda. It's going to pass. Do I have to count it all? So then 76 is what I'm at. Yeah, so did I. Okay, all those against? Okay, then it passes unanimously. Wonderful. The next item on the agenda, now that we've amended the agenda, is to elect blank, be it resolved that, that's what Bert means, be it resolved that blank, 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 and blank fill the non-executive seats on the board of directors for May 1st, 2013 until April 30th, 2014. Do I have a mover for this? Okay, can you state your name?
Chanakya Ramdev. Chanakya Ramdev.
Thank you. Seconder? Okay, can you state your name? Nikki Demansky. Okay, so in order for us to, there are blanks right now. So we may want to have people nominate other people in order to fill these positions. And basically that'll just be a formal way of putting those people in blanks. If we have too many names for the number of blanks that we have, traditionally what we do is we vote. We do a secret ballot. You've already received a piece of paper where you can write down those names that you wish to elect, and we normally have a little bit of a speech time at the front too. So is there any nominations to fill these blanks? And just to be clear too, our bylaws state that these do have to be filled by members of Students' Council who are elected for the same term as stated here.
Councillor Domensky, Councillor Harrison, Councillor McGuinness, Councillor Birnbaum, Councillor McFall,
It's okay.
and Luke McIntosh, and Councillor Patel.
Okay, is there a seconder for those nominations? Okay, can you state your name? Christina Romaldo seconds those nominations. So those are too many nominations for the number of blanks. Is there any other nominations? I'll read them out again. Okay, so another nomination for Stefan Hamad. Oh yeah, before we throw them up on the board, they should accept. So is there any of those people who have been thrown, that will be thrown up, that Chanakya mentioned, that do not accept? Let me just go through. So, do you accept? Do you accept? Who else? Who else? You accept? You accept? You accept? Who else? Who else? Who else? Luke. Cool. Okay, I think we got everyone then. So everyone accepts, because we wouldn't want them not accepting. We wouldn't want to throw them in a position they didn't want. So, and then we had one more nomination for Stefan Hamad. Is there a seconder for that? And you accept, of course. Cool. The seconder is Chanakya for Stefan. Sorry, he has a question. It's
Someone seems to have asked me to nominate them through Facebook.
Are they a counselor? Okay, then you're welcome to nominate them as a member here.
Samantha McLean.
Okay, is there a seconder for that? Okay. Seconded by Chanakya. Okay. And she accepts through Facebook. I'm sure that's fine. Oh, an email acceptance as well. This is great. We're prepared. Is there any other nominations at this time? Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll have, sorry. Yes, that would be, well, we can't personally, but we can ask them to make sure. So, is anybody up there not a Canadian citizen or not above the age of 13 as sitting, or 18? Hey guys, give me a break, all right? So you do, because you're on the board of directors, there are certain responsibilities. That's one of them by law. So if they're, yeah, you're good? You're good? Nikki, Demansky and Lauren, are you guys both above 18 and Canadian citizens? Cool. You guys as well, Stefan? Okay, cool, great. Can you message Sam and ask her if she is as well? Okay, so that confirmation is happening. So in the meantime, what we'll do is we'll have the nominations come up to the front. We'll give them each 1 minute to speak about why they feel that you should vote for them. And then we'll have a time for Q&A where you can direct questions. So if you have been nominated, please come to the front. And then we'll have a time for Q&A as well. So if you have been nominated, please come to the front.
Check. Yo.
Okay, so what we'll do,
Go down the list.
yeah, we'll go down the list for speaking order. So we'll start with Nikki Demansky. Please only speak for a minute. You can speak for less than a minute. Just try to be concise. And then we'll go from there.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Nikki Demansky, and I'm one of the current science counselors. Will be a counselor next year as well. Maybe you recognize my face. During elections, I did some of the videos with the candidates, put them up on YouTube to kind of encourage everyone to vote. So hopefully that kind of shows that I'm really passionate about feds. I'm a current board of directors member, and I've done a lot this year as a counselor, so I think I have like a good momentum going. I'm really hoping to get on board of directors next year to be involved in that decision-making process again because I've had such a wonderful experience this year.
Thank you. Next up is Lauren Harrison.
Hey guys, I'm Lauren. I'm also one of the science counselors. I was for the last year, and I've been re-elected for next year. So I wasn't on the board of directors last year, but student council was something that I had a really great experience doing. I loved every moment, and Feds has become something that I'm really passionate about. I think being on the board of the directors, I would have more of a say and get to put more input in, and that's something I would definitely like to have for next year. So thanks for your time, and thanks for hopefully your vote.
Thanks. Next up is Jesse McGinnis.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jesse. This is my third year or will be my third year as a counselor, and I've greatly enjoyed my experience in Feds. I was on board last year, and I would like to continue working to improve the organization. Also being heavily involved in many areas, I have a fairly good knowledge of how the organization works. I've worked extensively on the bylaws that are being proposed, so I have an intimate knowledge of the documents that govern our organization. So I think I can bring a really critical perspective to this board to ensure that we are following our own procedures and to ensure that our organization is working to better serve students yourselves. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jesse. Next up is David Birnbaum.
Hi, I'm David Birnbaum. I'm going to be Feds counselor for the first time. I'm from Faculty of Engineering. I think I provide a good outside perspective to the board of directors. I'm currently the Engineering Society president, as well as I serve on the Imprint board of directors, so I do have experience on a board of directors steering a corporation. I will not be on the Imprint board of directors by the time this comes in. I've been attending council meetings as Engineering Society president, and I am quite involved in the discussions about the bylaws and other things. I have a lot of experience with that, having rewritten the Engineering Society bylaws, and I think I'm very experienced, and it'll be good to have an outside perspective in these discussions.
Great. Thank you, David. Next up is Kumar Patel, or Prashant Kumar Patel. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Prashant Kumar Patel. I've been a counselor for 2 years for the Federation, and for the last 2 years I've had the privilege of serving as your Vice President, Administration and Finance. So I have been sitting on the board for the last 2 years. We've got a lot of things done. I mean, everything from having management control of the Student Life Center, working with this 2 strong executive teams. This sucks. I'll stand here. To opening Campus Bubble, to International News. Federation Express right now is undergoing renovations. We're going to be, as Andrew's going to present in a bit, we're hitting record high profits and record low losses across our businesses. I've done, honestly, a lot for this organization. I'm really committed towards it. I really hope I can have another term sitting on the board and just guiding it towards the right direction. As one thing that's really important is continuity.
5 seconds.
I can bring that to this board. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Luke McIntosh.
That one's not a hard one to follow. I'm Luke McIntosh. I'll be an arts counselor next year, and it'll be my first time in the position. But I've been working in the Federation of Students for the last 4 months in a co-op role within the education portfolio. So I think I'll bring a different perspective to council and board, being new to the organization. And I pride myself on being an independent thinker and willing to talk to anyone and hear about their opinions.
Hello, everyone. I'm really glad to see this number of Board of Directors candidates running for the role. I'm Elizabeth McFall. I'm going to be a math counselor next year, and I'd like to run for board because I'm extremely passionate about the Federation of Students, and I'd really like to see our Board of Directors be a strong Board of Directors that can support the executive and make sure that the things that you want to see happen. I'm extensively involved within MassDoc. I'm currently the MassDoc president. And I've been extensively involved in the new bylaws. The new bylaws do have a couple of nuances that will affect how the Board of Directors runs and how the corporation runs. And having that perspective on board would be really helpful. And ultimately, I think that I really enjoy working with students and with the Federation of Students, and I'd like to see it as strong as possible.
Thank you. Stefan Hamad.
Hello, I'm Stefan, and I'm also an incoming math counselor. I've been heavily involved with the Mathematics Society as a counselor for that and worked a lot with the execs through that. I've also worked a lot with the Math Endowment Fund Orientation Week, and I'm really looking forward to working on mainly the financial and legal aspects of the society, and the best way to do that is through board. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we will open up time for Q&A. You can think about your questions. Okay, I see you. But before we go to questions, we're going to appoint scrutineers. So do I have a mover to appoint some scrutineers that will eventually read the ballots? Can you state your name? Chanakia is the mover, seconded by anyone. We need a scrutineer. Okay. Cheryl, thanks. So there's two scrutineers, if it's amenable to Chanakia, for Alex Russell and Pratik Patel. Is that okay? Okay, is there anybody who'd like to discuss this? Is there any lack of clarity? Basically, we need people to read the ballots that won't be biased, and we'll just read the ballots together. It's just a normal thing that happens. Is there anybody against this? Okay, seeing how no one is against this motion to appoint the scrutineers, we'll see it as unanimous. So now we'll do the Q&A, and we'll start with Rob Savoy. You can say your name and then ask the question.
Hey guys, so I'm Rob Savoy, and I have the privilege of being a director now. It's an awesome experience. I highly encourage you guys to do it. But as a director, you're supposed to be setting the long-term strategic decision of the Federation of Students. It's very broad. You don't micromanage. You're meeting twice a week, and it's very high-level stuff. So guys, what are some long-term strategic kind of directions you want to see the Federation of Students going into?
Okay, we'll just go top to bottom in the list for who goes first. He asked to go top to bottom, so. Just go ahead. I think people will figure it out.
Okay, so we do have the long-term strategic plan that's being reviewed right now in place, and I think some of the main things on that is communication and transparency, and I know that you are all probably really tired of those words after election, and some people don't even think that means a lot, but I do believe in them because I think that increasing communication among students and having things that Feds does transparent to students, specifically like minutes and things like that, is really important to engaging students. So long term, that's something that I would like to see. And I say it's long term because it's not something that's going to happen today or tomorrow or even within the next year. It's something that Feds has to work towards. And as a Board of Directors member, I would really advocate for that, and I would love to work towards that.
Great, thank you. And just a reminder that it is a minute maximum. You did that just naturally, so go ahead, Lauren.
Okay, so I think one thing that's really important within the Federation of Students is student involvement. Once again, I know that's kind of overused. You guys have heard it a lot, but right now a lot of people aren't involved in the Federation of Students, don't know what it's doing, and I think that's really important that we change that. So I definitely like to look at ways and try to figure out how we can get more people involved within the organization, whether that's opening up more volunteer positions that people can do or just trying to promote our events more. That's kind of the main thing that I would want to work on.
Great, thanks. Next up is Jesse McGinnis.
Hello. So I think there's kind of like two main things. The first is just the long-range plan is up for renewal next year, so I think that's an integral process in determining the strategic direction that the organization goes in. And I'm positive the executive will lead that well, but I would like to ensure that that's done well, and that's something the board would be doing, is overseeing that process. And then secondly, I think a lot of what the current or incoming executive have spoken to during their past campaign of making a feds that's more relevant, more inclusive, focuses more on what students want. I think those are all very good things, and I'm much aligned with that, and I want to work with them as much as possible to ensure that that's what the organization is doing, that they are fulfilling the promises they've made, and that all of those are good for the organization.
Thank you. Next up is David Birnbaum.
There's a few things I would like to do with the board. One, it'll be mentioned a lot, I'm sure, is making sure students know what FEDS is doing. As an engineer, we always even have a hard time filling our 5-Eng counselor seats because engineers aren't engaged in FEDS, and I know this is widespread in other faculties, so it is about making sure people know what FEDS is doing because FEDS does do a lot of things for a lot of students. As well, I'd like to work with the societies. You might think I'm biased or not, but work with the societies because there are a lot of things that the societies and FEDS both do, and that's just repetition and wasting resources if they're both doing the same services for students. So working together to allow students to have the most services possible.
Thank you. Next up is Prashant Kumar Patel.
Cool, thanks guys. Thank you, Rob, for the question. I think the long-range plan, FEDS has put in a lot of time and a lot of money into that with consulting students and just hearing out what students and the University of Waterloo wants and what the needs are. So I think holding anything that the executive bring to the board of directors, whether it be any capital expenditure or any major shift in what we have to offer, making sure that aligns with the plan. There's a plan for a reason, and just making sure if that aligns with the plan, and as well as what Jesse said, making sure that they're doing what they promise the students. I think those are the two big things that I would watch out for as a board of director. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke McIntosh. And just a reminder before Luke goes, Rob misspoke. They don't meet twice a week. They meet bi-weekly, about every other week, give or take.
Luke McIntosh again. From my experience with FEDS and my position within the education portfolio, I found that our commercial services were very strong and very well publicized. If I was on board, I would try to do a better job of having the organization show the other parts, the clubs and the services and the education portfolio and everything else that sometimes gets overshadowed. And I think they're important and effective parts of the Federation of Students that we need to look at more.
Great, thank you. Next up, Elizabeth McFall.
So the strategic plan is getting renewed. A couple of people have mentioned that. What that means is we do have an opportunity to look at what it currently says and make improvements. The one thing I'd like to see in the new strategic plan is some metrics. Currently, it provides a high-level goal like increased student involvement. Sounds great, but I'd like to see us add how much, how many, that sort of thing, and making sure that as you go forward with a 3-year strategic plan, there's a clear set of milestones so that as an organization, the priorities you set get achieved.
Thank you. Next up, Stefan Hamad.
So everybody mentioned the long-range plan pretty much, so obviously we spend a lot of time working on that. I'd also obviously like to work on keeping the exec accountable and getting as many students involved as possible. As well, I mean, some of the portfolios sometimes don't get enough attention as much as they should, and I'm very interested in each of the 4 portfolios, and I'd like to work on the one maybe that is getting neglected by perhaps the other board if that does happen.
Great, thank you. So what we'll do, sorry, I see another question, and then we'll take other questions. We'll limit the question answer time to 30 seconds, just to keep it going a little bit, and most of you are only taking 30 seconds anyways. But you can state your name and then go ahead with the question.
My name is Chanakya Ramdev, and I was the one who nominated most of you. My question is like I'm a counselor, and being part of council doesn't perceive board very nice just because they have more information, and in general, Imprint has bashed board of directors before for not being transparent. So my question is like, why do you want to be part of so much bad PR? Why not just remain counselor and enjoy the benefits that come with it and the opportunity to represent students? Why do you want this negativity associated to you?
Okay, yeah. Go ahead. We'll do bottom up, so we'll start with Stefan Hamad, and then we'll go in reverse order.
So with transparency, unfortunately, there's a lot of elements that we can't have transparent. So a lot of the legal and financial aspects for a while can't be transparent. Obviously, when that's no longer needed to be kept confidential, it'd be good to get it out. But it is obviously a very important aspect to the organization. So that's why I'm interested in working board.
Yes, board of directors has been seen as untransparent, and there's been a lot of challenges along the way. I'd like to be part of board because ultimately the board of directors is the highest governing body of the Federation of Students after a general meeting, and they deal with the regular course of strategic choice. And I think that it's important that we still recognize that. And going forward, starting to build in ways to make the board more transparent, including making strategic choices, because those are things that we can always tell students. Yes, we're shifting focus to this, or we've increased resources to this. Those aren't confidential legal or HR matters, and we can definitely share them with students, and I think that's what we need to be focusing on.
The board in its current form is definitely, by default, everything's done confidentiality, and I think in a lot of cases that's not necessary. And just because that's what's been done in the past doesn't mean that's what has to be done in the future. So moving forward, I would like to see a board that's more transparent, except for obviously legal and HR issues, which you can't because that's a confidentiality issue. But there's no need for everything else to be hidden behind closed doors. I think that getting it out and talking to people is more effective, and we'll get better results because of it.
Cool. I've done this for 2 years, and I continue to do it, and I want to do it because I enjoy HR, I enjoy, doing legal stuff and finances and so forth. And that's why I want to continue to do it, if that answers your question. If students are perceiving it as a bad thing, that these things aren't transparent, like I'm really sorry, it's just the way the organization is. There's certain things that can and cannot be disclosed, and that's really it. Like why I do it is because I enjoy doing it for the students, and someone's got to do it. I'm your man.
I want to be involved in board because I think, again, I have good input, and it is very important to every student, whether they know it or not, what the Feds does. And to answer your question, bad PR doesn't scare me. So if we can't fix it, I'm okay to have people mad at me personally. If the board continues to have bad PR, I'm all right with that.
Okay, so why would I want to be on a body that has bad PR? Because I think that can be improved, and I would like to work towards improving that. I think has been spoken very well by many of the people running. Board does currently only really focus on confidential things, so by its very nature, it's very hard to make it transparent. But I think as Councillor McFall touched on, trying to bring in more strategic discussions and things like that don't need to be confidential allows us to start exposing more of what's happening at board because we have things to reveal that aren't confidential.
Yeah, so board might have a pretty bad rep or PR right now, but I think it's a pretty important body, and it's one that I definitely still want to be part of. So even if there might be some negativity around it, I think it's a pretty important thing, and I would definitely like to be part of it for next year.
So I completely agree with everything that's been said so far, and I mean there has to be students to keep the exec accountable and to state their opinions on board, and I think I'm never shy to state my opinions, and if some negativity comes along with that, then so be it, but I want to be on board because it's something I care about, and I've had an amazing experience so far, and I really want to continue that.
Great, thank you. Other questions? So just, if you want, you can only ask it for some candidates or for all candidates or et cetera.
Unfortunately, my question is for all candidates, and it's based a little bit off of what Elizabeth said during her speech about how she wants to make sure that she can help the executives do what they want to do, but at the same time make sure students are seeing what they want to see happen. And so my question for all counselors is, suppose you're in a situation where a number of students expressed a desire for something that the rest of the body wants to see happen, but they're not interested in seeing that happening. How would you decide your priorities in that case?
Okay, we'll start in the middle. So we'll start with Prashant Kumar Patel. We'll go down and then we'll go, so we'll just go down from that.
Cool. Thank you for that question. I mean, as a board of director, if that's the situation, if there's enough students, we can put it up for referendum. That could be an avenue. Like, there are ways that we can drive what students want if just the 4 executive don't feel like listening to students, right? So I would look at what it is and how many students want it, and if it's substantial enough, take it to referendum or take it to council to seek their opinion on it and so forth.
Luke?
I'm along the same lines as Kumar. I think it's a very situational question. There'll be times where the board has to look out for the livelihood of the Federation of Students, but there's also times that the student's voice needs to be heard, especially if it's something large enough and important enough. But we can definitely, the process can be through council, it can be through subcommittees. There's definitely ways to bring it up and get it to the point where we can see it through board. So even if it's not good at board right away, there's other ways to attack it that we can push stuff through.
Elizabeth McFall?
So how to address an issue in which the exec and students have differing opinions? Definitely Kumar and Luke said it well. A referendum, bringing it to council is an option. We do need to look at the reason behind it. As a board of directors, it's our role to make sure that we do things in the best interest of the corporation. So the reason behind it may just be, this is a confidential matter, it can't be shared, and making sure that we communicate to students, yes, we recognize that you want this, however, here's the reason we can't provide it, or here's how we're going to provide it.
Go ahead, Stefan.
Okay. So with this question, if there is obviously disagreement between what seems like the student opinion and exec, then it's important to really find out what that student opinion is and if it is really different than what the exec want. If that is the case, then as they said, referendum, also a general meeting, calling maybe a impromptu general meeting, or bringing it to council is often the best thing to do as long as it isn't confidential. If it is confidential, then work through board to try and get what students want as long as it is in the best interest of the corporation.
Thanks. Nikki Demansky?
So the way I'm kind of interpreting your question is probably about an issue that is not confidential. So board, as has been already mentioned, has to protect the corporation and make decisions with the intent to make the best decisions for the corporation, whereas council has to represent you guys, the students. So I would be a board of directors member, but I would also be a counselor, and I think that that's where those kind of issues need to be brought forward to council. And it really gets me excited when students are passionate about an issue, and I would work my hardest, both as a board of directors member, but also as a counselor, to bring those issues forward and to bring it to council so we can debate it there.
So if there's an issue that students were really passionate about, and I also stood behind it, and the exec maybe didn't support it as much, I would try to figure out why the exec didn't support it, kind of figure out the reasoning behind it. But if it's not a confidential matter, if it's something that I think and a lot of students think would be beneficial for the school, then I would just keep trying to push it forward, try to make it happen, try to look at different avenues to make it happen. Like other people mentioned, there's the referendums, there's the council meetings. So I'd really just keep working my hardest and pushing my opinion to try to make that happen.
If a student brought something up that...
Sorry. Okay, thank you. So I think everyone's touched on it very well. I think if it's a non-confidential issue, you bring it to the appropriate body and deal with it there. If student opinion, though, reflects that we should act in a certain way on a confidential matter, and that's in conflict with what the executive want to act, I think we have to figure out why the executive are opposed to that first, just to make sure that we're making a well-researched, well-reasoned decision. But I would advocate and fight on the body to make sure that what we're doing is aligned with what students want, more so than what the executive want, unless there's some other reason that would force me to go the other way.
This is why I tried to get the mic before him, because he pretty much said what I was going to say, in that if you have to make sure that the student body is informed. If it's a confidential matter and they can't be informed, then it would have to stay in BOD. But in any elected position, your job is to have push the student opinion. You can't have the BOD not agreeing with what the students want. They have to protect the corporation as well, but it's the students' entity. Like Feds is for the students.
Okay, great. So I already saw a member with their hand up, and we'll take one more question after that.
I have a quick question for candidate Patel. I was under the impression that you were going to graduate at the end of the spring term, so this would in practice just be a 4-month appointment?
I'm still, sorry. I don't know if the bylaws, Andrew, you have to be a member? Am I a member after the 4 months if I graduate? No, so yeah, so then it would be, if that's the case, it would only be a 4-month term, yes, sir.
Okay, we'll take, since that was only a question for one person, we'll take 2 more questions. I saw your hand.
I'd like to know how many of you are on co-op, and of those of you who are in the co-op stream, how many of you are going to be on a co-op term in the next year and therefore practically unavailable for at least 1 term, and probably, as most co-op students in my experience, really not able to live up to your obligations when you're out of town working on a co-op term.
Yeah, so we'll go backwards from what we did before. So we'll start with David and go up. And you can probably be pretty quick with this answer, so I'd encourage
I, as all engineers, have a co-op program. I think it's bad to call out and discriminate against all of our faculty based on the fact that we have a co-op. I'm extremely dedicated to my job. I will be on co-op for 4 of the 12 months, yes, but I will still come back for the meetings as I have for council meetings. I don't think that is reflective of my commitment to the position, and I don't think it was necessary to call out.
Okay.
So I am on co-op for 4 months. I'll be in the fall term. I'm on co-op right now, and I'm here. The nature of the industry I work in is one that is very flexible and often forgiving of absences if it's known of in advance. So there would be no issue with making meetings. I've never found in the past that co-op has inhibited my ability to do my job.
Lauren Harrison.
I will be in Waterloo for the entire 12 months.
Okay. Nikki Demansky.
Same.
I'll be on co-op next semester, but I'll be living in Waterloo, so I'll be available.
Oh, yeah, Kumar.
I'll be here for 4 months.
I'm on co-op in the fall term, but I will be in Waterloo and I will be available. I'm currently on co-op and I'm also available and have been available, so that will continue.
Go ahead, Stefan.
I'm on co-op in the summer, but I'll be working on campus, so I'll be very available. It'll be nice to be able to do things without all the assignments and midterms. And for the other 8 months, I will be in class.
Okay, we'll take one more question. You already had a question, though. Is there anybody who hasn't asked a question that would like to ask a question? Cool. So the last question.
Quick question. So as you know, Team Yellow won together. So whatever things they bring in agenda on board would most likely be, they would be on a similar path or decision of how they want to see it. And they just need one director to say yes to them. So how do you make sure that things still happen that not just benefit Team Yellow or their ideology, but students in general?
Okay, we'll go in alphabetical order by first name. David, you got to go again first. Sorry, I just picked a random.
I want to say for the record that I'm here the next 12 months. But as far as, I hope that Team Yellow, yes, they have their agenda that they got elected on, but I hope that they will adapt with the student opinion, and it's the board's job with the executive to make sure Feds serves the students and what the students want. So they were elected with an agenda, but I hope that we can work together. I hope it's not just a matter of one member of boards on their side and they kind of run with it. I hope it's a 9-person collaboration.
Elizabeth McFall.
So Team Yellow got elected, students chose their vision, and board is responsible for making that strategic vision happen, and I want to be involved in making that happen. I think they have great ideas, and they'll implement them well, and I'd like to see that happen going forward.
Jesse McGinnis.
I think both of them have spoken to it well. I think it's not that they're going to act as, oh, we have our own special little vision that is completely in conflict with what all students want, and we just need to convince one person to switch to our side and we can run away with it. I think they will continue to act in the interest of students, and in the cases that they don't, I hope that the elected students of board would see that and act in a manner to ensure that the organization stays aligned with student interests.
Lauren Harrison.
Yeah, I'm going to work on student interest, not just on what Team Yellow said. Yes, students voted for their platform, and I think they had a very strong platform, so we'll work to make some or maybe all of those points happen, but also still following student interest and not just doing exactly what the executive says, per se.
Luke McIntosh.
Team Yellow did win the election, and I think their platform was strong, but the plans are only good until the first interaction, so there will obviously be changes as we go, and I think that's what board's for, is to help people go along and make sure the strategy is as close as possible.
Nikki Domansky.
I think the situation that you presented is a little bit unlikely. If you've ever attended a council meeting, like many times the exec are split themselves, so don't ever get the impression that it's like they need one more person and they'll get their way. That's not it at all. We're definitely going to work throughout the entire year to make sure that the vision comes true and that it's working for everyone in Feds. And being a counselor this past year, I've had the opportunity to get to know the elected exec team pretty well. I'm a pretty outspoken person, and don't get me wrong, but I won't be afraid to call them out.
Okay, Prashant Kumar Patel.
All right, as board members, we're supposed to act in the best interest of the corporation. That's our primary duty. And the Team Yellow got elected, yes. I'm, as speaking as an executive myself, the board should be there to support and move forward initiatives that executives are bringing forward, as long as they do act in the best interest of the corporation. So if those two things align, as well as the long-range plan, that's how I'll be making my decisions. Thank you.
Okay, Stefan Hamad.
So if there is a conflict there with the student opinion and the exec, and that does come up on board, we'll obviously have to look at, I think, on an issue-at-issue basis, but looking at the student opinion is very important, and that's about it.
Okay, so what we'll do is we can move right to voting, but I'm going to give the option of a 30-second closing statement up to you guys. So if you, just by straw poll, if you're interested, do you have... Okay. Go ahead. Wait for the microphone. Okay. Okay, so we'll just do a straw poll. If you are interested in having closing statements, raise your hand, and I'll just see if that looks like a majority. So if you're interested in doing closing statements, raise your hand. Okay, that's what I figured. So now we're all done here, but you want to say something at this point? Can you say your name?
I'm Sean Hunt. So I've been listening to what's been said, these candidates, and I'd like to share my opinions in hopes that we can elect the best board for next year. First off, I think a lot of what people have said, I'm a student representative myself, not to Feds, but to the university, and it's very difficult sometimes in meetings to call out people you've worked with, people you've chatted, had fun with, and to be able to say, no, you know what, that's dumb. Like, I disagree with you, and I think we should do something different. And so it's one thing for a candidate here to say, yes, I'm going to represent the interests of students over the exec. It's honestly another thing for them to do it. I think that given what I've heard today, Kumar, with his experience on board, is not likely to be one to push around. I think we all saw David's response to the question earlier about co-op. On other notes, I think that Luke's experience as an employee would be valuable. None of the other candidates, except for Kumar and Jesse, have worked in the Federation, but Luke's been the one most close to the executive, most close to seeing what's been going on, and he seems to present that as a good experience to bring forward to board. So I would recommend those 3 candidates.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, what we'll do now is write down names on the ballot. So the names are all up there. You guys can grab a seat. You can write down and vote for yourselves if you so desire. So basically write down the names. You have the option of only writing down one name. You can write down no names. You don't need to make a decision here. You can write down up to 5 names. Just to be clear, the board of directors is made up of 4 of the 4 executive, with the president being the chair of the board, and then the 5 student council members that are coming in will also have the ability to sit on board. So feel free to write that down now. So Alexandra Russell and Pratik Patel will come around to collect your ballots, and then they will count them as scrutineers. The person with the most votes. Wait. Just to clarify, the top 5 vote getters will be the ones on board. Okay, so the scrutineers are still coming around. We have a full agenda still to go. Lots of exciting things like bylaws and fees and things of that nature. Feel free to grab some pizza, compliment of Feds. If you are here and you have a ballot, you are eligible for a BlackBerry Playbook. However, you only receive that BlackBerry Playbook if you are here at the end of the meeting. We will be doing it through the names because we wrote down all the names and with the numbers there, and we'll be selecting a number randomly. And then if the person is here, they will be able to receive a BlackBerry Playbook. I hear they're a pretty cool company. was a tie for sure, so there's no precedent to back it up. If you still have ballots, bring them over to Alexandra Russell, the person with the bunny ears. If you're watching on the live stream, hello. No. Is there anyone who has not submitted their ballot yet? Raise your hand if you have not submitted your ballot yet and you're eligible to submit a ballot. Okay, I think what we'll do then, while the scrutineers are electing the ballots, or counting the ballots, what we'll do is I'll ask for someone to move to table this item until they're done. That's moved by McGinnis, seconded by, sorry, say your name.
Devin Drury.
Okay, so that's moved and seconded in order to table that until we come back to it. So just to be clear, we're just tabling it. They're going to do the counting. They're going to make sure, double check while we move on with the rest of the agenda. Is there any discussion on this? Is there anybody against doing this? Okay, seeing that, I'll take that as unanimous. So we'll move on to the next item of business. Approval of the minutes from the 2012 General Meeting of the Federation of Students, the annual general meeting in the fall. Is there a mover for this motion? Can you state your name? McGinnis, thank you. Seconder? McFall, thank you. Is there any discussion on the approving the minutes? Okay, we'll put it to a vote because we should, with minutes, put it to a vote. So there's no more discussion, so we'll put that to a vote. We're going to have to count, and I know you're eating pizza, but please leave one hand free to raise your ballot. Either yes, no, or you can abstain. All those in favor of approving the minutes? Nice and high, please. It's great. This is approving the minutes of the general meeting, the last general meeting in the fall. Okay, that's fine. Last call for ballots. Okay, you can lower your placards. I had 58 in favor. Yeah, and 18 on this side. All those against? Okay, 2 against. Anyone like to abstain? Notably in the minutes? Okay, so that motion passes. Can you just speak to what you're bringing up? I know you just put pizza in your mouth, so maybe I'll just speak what you just said to me. He just wants his name added to the minutes. I see that as friendly for his name to be added, that he was at the attendance at the fall general meeting. It's not a big deal. Is there anybody who doesn't see this as friendly? Okay, we'll move on then. Thanks. So the next thing on the agenda is the ratification of board members previously elected. Do I have a mover for this? I'll read the motion out. Be it resolved that the general meeting ratifies Nikki Demansky as a director until April 30th, 2013. Do I have a mover? Can you state your name? McGinnis, seconder. Romaldo, thank you. Is there any discussion on this? Okay, is there anybody against this? Okay, I'll see that as unanimous, that passes. It's just the ratification. The next thing on the agenda is the ratification of the 2013-2014 executive team. Do I have a mover for this? Do you want to say your name?
Drury.
Drury, great. Seconder? Can you say your name? Gafour? Yep, Brandon Gafour. Seconded. Is there any discussion on this? Yep.
Just again, for legal purposes, we should add a J in front of my name.
Got it. I see that as friendly. To add a J in front of. Yeah. Is there any other discussion on this? Okay. Is there anybody against the ratification of the elected members? We should vote? Yeah, we should vote. You're right. Okay, we will vote. Please keep a hand free. All those in favor? All those against? Anybody who would like to abstain notably? Okay, so that passes in favor. 88 in favor. That's the number of votes we have here. That's pretty cool, just for the record. Okay, next thing. Oh, we should clap. That's kind of, yeah? Yeah. Okay, next thing on the agenda, the Federation of Students Annual Report. Before I go to this, are the scrutineers ready to announce the ballots? No, they're not? Okay, so we'll go to the presentation then, the annual report. It's one of the presentations. No, the other one. So just do slideshow from beginning. So we've discussed a lot our long-range plan. So this is an update on the progress we've made on the long-range plan in the last year. This is not just me. This is a bunch of dedicated staff that work for Feds, the executives, all the different people that volunteer, hundreds and thousands that put work into this in order for us to report on it. But I get the pleasure of reporting it to you to give you some very exciting updates of what we've been able to achieve in the last year. So just going over our 6 strategic goals. These were part of our strategic plan. So expanding communications is number 1. Strong and effective lobbying efforts, developing and maintaining strong operational management practices, promoting student engagement, enhancing visibility, awareness, and student involvement in governance, elections, and representation, develop and utilize collaborative partnerships. If you're interested in seeing our long-range plan, you can just Google search Fed's long-range plan Waterloo, and you'll be able to find it. These are articulated in more detail to kind of talk about what we expect within the 3 years that our long-range plan is set up, what we hope to achieve with these 6 strategic goals. So moving into some of the things that we can talk about within communications, brand new website was launched. This was a lot of work over the summer to launch a brand new website. Just some numbers, over 100,000 visits, unique visitors, over 50,000 unique visitors. Of course, that includes iPhones and Blackberries. Average time on site, 2.4 minutes. Pages per visit, 7.4. And just a heads up, something we're working on right now that we'll happy to see in effect very soon is on May 1st, integrated event forms, an online events calendar. So that'll be launching May 1st. It's one of the things Alex Russell, VP Internal, ran on that platform, and things take time, but she's able, with the IT department that we have, in order to put that in place. We also saw the launch of Feds Connect. So had a lot of visits here, a lot of unique users and a lot of members. Over 3,000 members have signed up. 3.1 minutes average time on site, 7.4 pages per visit. So students browsing around on that discussion board. Lots of discussions happening on that side of the site as well. Oh, go back one. So just another heads up, we're doing a lot of communications outreach, social media. We've seen 1,000 more followers in the last year on social media. That's a huge increase. We've put a lot of dedication to that, going where the conversation is already happening. Again, over 1,000 new likes on Facebook. CTV, Rogers Television, Academia Top 10, Toronto Star. We've been getting positive coverage all over the place. The one exception is with Imprint. Just an example of how we're trying to expand our communications. This is something when Learn went out and students were having frustrating experiences with their professors, we put out this communication in order to walk students through the process if they have a frustrating experience with their professor not extending a deadline, etc. And these were all around campus and got retweeted. It was one of the top posts on our website. And just giving students information, expanding that communication and responding to students really quickly. We have the resources to do that now. Some strong and effective lobbying. This is a lot of Adam's portfolio, so I'll let him speak to it.
Okay, so I tried to do these in chronological order as they were announced, and I might have gotten one wrong. I don't think so. Okay, so first one was the Access Copyright License wasn't signed. For those who don't know what that is, Access Copyright was a license that institutions of the post-secondary nature were intending to sign that would allow them to photocopy copyrighted materials for use within the educational classroom or for online use, essentially for all educational purposes. We felt like this was a very unnecessary license to sign. It would have charged students at most a $9 per full-time student fee as well. What we had recognized was that there was going to be some changes to copyright legislation that were very imminent, and that would actually cover all of the things that license did. So it was a very big success very early in the term that Students' Council was able to achieve through some really good motions and some really strong advocacy on our part to avoid that fee. Shortly thereafter, as predicted, we did see some new federal copyright legislation that made allowances for education and fair dealing. We still don't know exactly what that means, and so a lot of the practices on campus haven't exactly changed. But as soon as that definition is fully understood, whether that's through Supreme Court interpretations or just by various partners identifying what that means for us, very soon you'll actually see some really awesome things on the ground level. In particular, course packs. Likely the cost of those will go down significantly. And that's something that we've done through our federal advocacy organization, CASA, the Canadian Alliance of Student Associations. Shortly thereafter, the Northdale Community Improvement Plan was approved by the City of Waterloo Council. Many of you likely live in Northdale. That's the section of Waterloo that's bounded by King Street and Phillip, and then Columbia and University. That's a neighborhood within the City of Waterloo that's actually had a lot of attention in the media in our community because of the kind of student ghettoization that a lot of members feel was taking place. And so we've been working with our partners municipally and regionally to improve that, and what resulted from that was a community improvement plan. Currently, that's at the Ontario Municipal Board, and so it hasn't actually fully been implemented, but something that we'll be continuing through. The Ontario Municipal Board hearings start late April, so we'll be involved in that again, making sure that the vision that was set out that we believe will benefit students is actually seen. Next, the Ontario government invested $27 million in improved mental health supports for post-secondary students. This is a really great initiative that a lot of people on campus are really passionate about. Basically what it was I guess it was last March at the last USA General Assembly that was held at McMaster. We passed a policy paper on student health that specifically called for dedicated funding for mental health supports on campuses. This was actually the result of USA's lobbying. We saw $27 million being invested into this. In particular, USA supported two particular proposals that actually were accepted, so I just wanted to go over them really quickly. One was a Center for Innovation on Campus Mental Health. The Colleges Ontario, Council of Ontario Universities, the College Student Alliance, and USA all partnered together with the Canadian Mental Health Association. They're going to create a center that's specifically for counseling services on campus to access so that they can get the resources, get the information that they need to better support students. And that funding is going to be $1.1 million over 3 years. And the next one was we actually worked with EGAL, Canada Human Rights Trust. That's an LGBTQ mental health or LGBTQ organization that advances human rights. And we worked with them on a proposal that will improve the mental health, wellness, and social well-being of LGBTQ students on campus. And specifically, that's going to be about $500,000 over the next 2 years. finally, something that I have been working on in terms of some of the communications since late last night. We had a new tuition framework that was announced this morning. So I hope that you're all happy to hear that our average increases will be capped at 3% per year as opposed to 5%. This has been a really strong lobbying point of USA for a very long time. We hear you loud and clear. The cost of education is very high. It is unaffordable for many students. And so we've been working very diligently to bring that down for you. This is the result. We're going to see average increases capped at 3% versus what's currently 5%. And you're looking at about savings of $500 over the next 4 years per student. Unfortunately, we did see that professional programs are still a little bit higher. The increases to them can be at about 5%. So that would be programs like engineering, graduate programs, optometry, pharmacy, etc. However, that's still down from 8%. So it is a win. It's significant progress, and it's something that we will continue to do a lot of work on surrounding tuition and how you pay tuition at your university to make sure that it's the most affordable experience as possible. The one thing that I just want to keep in mind is the context of this is that the government did lower funding for governments significantly. We're looking at about $8 million over the next 2 years. We are going to see a significant decrease in funding both from private sources and the government. However, what we're going to be doing from feds and from USA is really strongly lobbying that the government is tying some accountability frameworks to universities so that they are better finding those efficiencies. We all know that they're there. We all know that there are things within our campus that don't need to be spent as much money on, and so we'll be lobbying for those to be taken away.
So I'll just go over some of the things that I've been advocating for as well in the last year. One thing that came out of some student building consultations was not only that we want a new student building, but that we can enhance some space that we already have on campus. So the university is already committed to spend, it's approximately, we're looking at about $500,000. Not confirmed yet. It depends on the furniture that we're going for and all the different things aligned with it. But looking at space around campus, like the first floor of DC, where there's a bunch of open space, a lot of students sitting on the floor, and it'd be helpful to add some couches, furniture, places to study. We're also looking at RCH and a number of other places on campus. It's something the university is already committed to paying for, and we're happy to see those improvements in the next few years. Another thing, the SLC management control. This was a lot of work that went into now overseeing the management of this building. As well, we're innovation and experiential learning. Experiential learning is learning outside of the classroom, whether that be co-op or work study positions, and within labs or whatever it is. It's outside of that lecture style to experience that learning. And the university has made this part of their strategic plan, that they need more. They're looking to do more of that kind of teaching. That's something that we've really pressured them on, to do more than just lectures with 400 students in the classroom, but to really involve students in experiential learning, and they've made that a priority. That's a big win for students, and we're happy to report that. New student building progress continues. There's been a lot of research that's gone into it, looking at other schools, as well as finding out what students want. You can find more information about that online. As well as this may seem like something small, just another committee, but it's a student committee that will oversee orientation week consistently for those decisions made, like shortening orientation week. Why don't we let that decision be made by students, not various university staff within the university? So that's something that we're really happy to see as well, is the students committee overseeing orientation week. So that's that's the second strategic goal. Moving on to the third strategic goal, which strong operational management. Financial audit of orientation week. We always get audited every year, but we did an in-depth deep dive of orientation week, and that proved very good results, that we are on top of things. We're not losing our not-for-profit status at all there. Societies accountant, working with all the societies. Great feedback from all of the societies about how that's going. Dana's here. She's doing a great job working with the societies. And commercial services. So this is our Vice President in Min Finance, Kumar Patel, working with our staff and our managers. Here are just some of the numbers that we're happy to show you guys about the improvements that we've seen. So Bomber, that in brackets, that's a loss. So Bomber has consistently lost money each year, and we're starting to see less and less. And even this term, we're we're talking realistically about Bomber not losing money this term. Like this is happening. We've increased service levels, we've increased management and efficiencies, and we're just getting better. Better food, better service. It's a better Bomber. Feds Express changing to international news. It's already been making improvements, as you can see by these numbers. Small numbers, but we expect that to still be good going forward. Campus Bubble, Wasabi, again, it was just implemented last year, so a lot of costs up front put into that Campus Bubble, but we're offering low-cost bubble tea, and we're still doing that at a break-even, not-for-profit way, and not losing money on that. So this is, when we see these numbers in the positives, then we're able to use student fees towards services, and our commercial operations can just offer great services as well on the side. And then the used bookstore, again, those numbers look a little bit bad right now, but that'll change at year end likely when students may not return checks and that sort of thing. But we're doing a used bookstore survey right now. Go on feds.ca and you can comment on how to improve the used bookstore. Next thing, promoting student engagement. One of the cool initiatives that I'm happy to report on is the Feds First Year Council, led by a first year student. Over 14% voter turnout. That's 50% increase from the last Feds election. 4 meetings already with high participation. That's a typo. So they're learning about Feds, advocacy, future involvement opportunities within Feds. We have 3 of them right now. 3 first-year counselors are running for 2 students council positions. So this is a leadership development for Feds, and they're not just being passive. They're meeting with the director of housing in the coming weeks to talk about improving UWP social space and study space. This is an active students council just for first year students that is increasing the engagement that we have with Feds centrally, not just with some of the clubs and societies that happen and do a great job, but with what Feds advocates for and that advocacy-centric nature that we're really pushing in Feds, that's what this group is able to do. As well, we've seen upwards of over 50 new clubs this year. We've seen new partnerships with the Student Success Office, Health Services, and Women's Studies Department to provide programming, skill development for students. New mental health programming, there's a really cool story about that, but I'll talk to you guys about that after. Basically, some students came to us with this great idea. We gave them a little bit of a budget for it, and it was a huge success. And then strengthening relationships with both satellite campuses and societies. We've spent a lot of time at the School of Architecture this year. We've spent a lot of time at the School of Pharmacy, meeting with those students, making sure that Feds isn't just caring about this campus, but all of the campuses of undergraduate students here at Waterloo. And so those are the updates from our long-range plan. It's just kind of an update and annual report. We still have time left, though. We still have a month left, and we're going to try to get a lot done in that next month. So we're hoping to publish this presentation as well as all of the updates and results from our action plan very soon. Oh, one more slide. Yes, this slide. Oh, you skipped one. So yeah, so multiple videos, no acclaimed seats. We saw an increase in voter turnout. Almost a full incoming students council now, which is great to see. Just a college seat and pharmacy unfilled at this point. And look at how many people are here at the general meeting. So that's kind of cool as well. So yeah, is there any questions about this? Yeah.
My question is for the Vice President Education. You mentioned that the Federation is involved with the Ontario Municipal Board on the Northdale plan, which I'm fully in support of and I think will be great for students. But is the Federation also involved in the Waterloo Region's official plan, which was recently overturned by the Ontario Municipal Board and is now going to the Divisional Court?
No. The reason for that is that right now we don't really have great coordinated municipal advocacy, and in particular, we are not that great at regional advocacy. Right now, really at the regional level, we focus on transit, and currently transit options are actually still housed in the VP Administration and Finance portfolio, just due to that's where the UPass is. So this year as an executive, what we talked about was moving that into the VP Education's portfolio, so that's a new part, is that I'll be administering the UPass, and I think that will help to coordinate all the regional advocacy into one area. As well, what we're doing is we're looking to expand a number of the part-time student support and volunteer support in the local affairs area of our portfolio. So ideally, we will get involved in that, but no, we haven't this year.
Another question?
Question for you, and my name is Chanakya Ramdev, if you still don't know that. You said that you were going out and looking at buildings from other schools and seeing how the student buildings are there. So I'm just curious, like, what was the coolest thing you saw there? And out of all the cool things that you saw, what can we bring here?
I think there's a lot of things that we can learn from other schools. I mean, Western University, they have a new student building there that's right next to their student services, or right next to their student life center. They just constructed a student services center. So yeah, we met with the administrators there and the people overseeing that building. And one of the coolest things was they had a one-stop shop for their registrar's office, financial aid, and the cashier's office. So instead of going to multiple different areas within Needles Hall or around campus, getting bumped, you know, to pick up your OSAP, but then getting told to go to the Tatham Center and weird things like that, they had it all housed in one location. And it was a really efficient way of doing things where they had first you would come and get triaged, for example, and then you'd get a number, and you'd just sit back, you could work on your laptop, and then move on from there. So that was a cool thing. Other questions? Okay, well, we will be posting these slides online, so you can feel free to check that out later, and we'll also be reporting on all of our actions at the end of the year. So the next thing on the agenda, Board of Directors ratification. Is that back yet? I don't think they're back yet. No, they're still counting. So we're going to go on to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of an inflationary fee increase. Be it resolved that the general meeting approves a fee increase of 1.5%, 0.67 cents, or $0.67 to the Federation of Students fee to reflect the Canadian Consumer Price Index. Do I have a mover for this? I'll see. Can you say your name? Kumar Patel. Seconded. Can you say your name? Chanakya. Okay. Would you like to speak to your motion?
It's an annual thing we do every year. Oh, hi. So this is a thing that we do every year. It's we just traditionally raise our fee by this Canadian CPI. So it's a pretty standard thing. So let's do it.
Okay, is there any other discussion on this? Okay, seeing any other discussion on this? Okay, seeing none, we'll put it to a vote. So all in favor? All those against? All those who would like to abstain and be noted in the minutes? Okay, seeing none, that passes. I had 64 in favor, 0 against. The next thing on our agenda is approval of fee transfer / fee increase. So I'll read this out loud. There's just some whereas statements that give context to this fee increase / fee transfer. So whereas the Federation of Students, oh, it's in the slides as well, yeah. Whereas the Federation of Students now has management control over the Student Life Center, whereas formerly there is a university student services fee for the part-time staff of the turnkey desk, whereas this turnkey part-time fee cannot be transferred to the Federation of Students, and the Federation of Students wishes to continue the service of the turnkey desk, whereas as of May 1st, 2013, the University of Waterloo will cease providing accounting support to the Student Life Center. Whereas an enduring principle of the Federation of Students is for feds to reflect sound financial management, transparency, and accountability. Whereas the Federation of Students has an increased need for accounting support due to the new management of the Student Life Center, be it resolved that the general meeting of the Federation of Students approves of a fee increase of $3.04 per student on the Federation of Students fee. Do I have a mover for this? Can you state your name? Adam Garcia, thank you. Do I have a seconder? State your name.
Alec King.
Alan King. Alec King. Seconds. I guess Adam, would you like to speak to your motion? Oh, there's another microphone that you just ran away from, but that's okay.
Yeah, this is something that, as an executive, we've been discussing simultaneously while we were working on the Student Life Center transfer of management. It's something that we recognize would need to happen within our organization in order for us to accommodate to be able to provide the turnkey service, but also as well to be able to provide the accounting and administrative support that will come with this building. As you all know, the Student Life Center management is a very exciting enterprise for us. We're all very excited. We think it opens up a lot of potential for us to be able to make this a truly student-driven space on campus with lots of study space, social space, good commercial services for you. And this really reflects how we will be able to provide that for you over the long term.
Is there any other discussion?
I have a quick question. The Board of Governors, the university's Board of Governors, which approves fee changes, their agenda for their next meeting was just released, and the student services fee from which the turnkey was funded is being reduced. And it's not, however, being reduced by the same amount as this fee is being increased. So I'm curious as to why the Federation is charging $6 less per student than the Board of Governors for the same services. It's a serious question. I'm wondering how you think you can provide the same level of service with less money.
Can you clarify what it said on the decrease for the student services fee? Do you remember what there?
It doesn't say specifically what it's for.
I'll try to answer this as best as I can because I will not be able to explain the student services fee in 5 minutes. The student services fee fluctuates to reflect actual costs. So the student services fee that you're actually paying is not for service you're receiving right now. It's for service that students received 2 years ago. And so the actual costs may have actually gone down for that year than the year previous, which means that the fee can be lowered a little bit more. So that does not necessarily reflect this same number. It's a whole whack of, did counseling services spend less? Did health services spend less? Did we add in a service but cut another one? It's very confusing to explain, so that's why they don't match up.
And if I could respond as well, it's we calculated and did an exact transfer. We worked with the VP Admin Finance of the university, Dennis Huber, in order to do that. And even though the way that's set up is that there would be double charge for the student services fee for those next 2 years, and then the feds fee that we're implementing now. So the way that it should have happened was a double fee, but we are able to advocate against that, so it's going to stop May 1st this year so that there's no double charge. Any other questions? Yeah? Chanakya, I'll get the mic for you.
My question is just a follow-up to what Sean talked about the service that the turnkey people would provide. So I'm personally a huge fan of what they do and the things that they are selling. And I'm just curious, how would it, would it change somehow now that it's part of feds?
I'm gonna ask the Vice President Administration and Finance of Feds to respond.
What's changing? The thing is, yes and no. I mean, Turnkey is going to operate, obviously, and commit to the same services that it's offering right now. We're gonna make it better, right? Things like having FedBus and centralizing all transit at Turnkey. Maybe even down the road having all our event ticketing done through Turnkey, and just having 24/7 service available to students. That we're committed to continuing to do. And those are things that we're going to be streamlining and making more efficient so students have more access to service.
Cool. Thank you. You can pass the microphone back to Christina. Is there any other discussion on this? Yep.
Sorry, Andrew. Okay, never mind. I don't have the question anymore.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion?
Oh, actually, I still have a question.
Go ahead.
Sorry. On here, it doesn't actually say the amount that's getting put towards the actual fee, from what I can tell. Like, what is the actual value, like the breakdown of that increase?
Do you mean for...
What's...
It's I think it's about $2.40 the transfer, and then about 64 cents the accounting side of things. 234 and 70. Okay. Yeah, there was a miscalculation that went through council and got publicized, so there has been some confusion, but that's why we double checked everything with the VP Admin Finance of the university to make sure that we weren't doing anything crazy. And as well with the increase of, we just had to make sure that it actually fit. It's also weird because we're talking about pennies that don't exist anymore, but it'll be rounded. Is there any other discussion on this? True. Yeah. Okay, seeing no more discussion, I'll put this to a vote. All those in favor of this motion? Yeah. Yeah, it's not contentious. There's a contentious thing. On this side, you guys can lower. For 74? Oh, yeah, I got 70, so, okay. We'll do 70. Okay, all those against? All those who would like to abstain and be noted in the minutes? You don't need to be noted, so one abstention. So it passes 70-0-1. It's in favor. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is the bylaws. So we'll go through these. The election results. Yes, we will untable the election results. Do we have a mover to untable? Can you state your name? Sean Hunt, seconded. Andrew Fisher is the seconder. So I have the election results in my pocket, because where else would I put them? Back pocket. What? Just so I can put them on. Oh. So the election results, everyone received a majority, so it's passed. So the incoming, and I'll just announce it by first names, so that I don't mispronounce last names. Luke, Kumar, Nikki, Jesse, and David. Sorry, do you have a question? Let me just double check if that's cool. Yeah, we'll give a tally of the votes as well. I'll read it out as we write it down on the screen as well. So Luke received 107 votes. Kumar received 104 votes. Nikki received 78 votes. Jesse received 73 votes. David received 71 votes. There's a total of 127 votes cast. I could probably find that out for you. Do we have a tally of the other candidates? The scrutineers are bringing it over. Liz received 59 votes. Lauren received 52 votes. Stefan received 29 votes. Sam received 6 votes. Okay, so that's the motion is updated now to read, be it resolved that Luke McIntosh, Nikki Demansky, Jesse McGinnis, David Birnbaum, and Prashant Kumar Patel fill the non-executive seats on the Board of Directors from May 1st, 2013 until April 30th, 2014. Is there a discussion on this? Just I'll...
Motion to destroy the ballots?
It's a motion to destroy the ballots by David Collins, seconded by
Devin Drury.
Devin Drury. Thanks, Devin. So this is it. Oh, would you like to speak to your motion, David? I'll just note that normally what happens is we destroy the ballots so that there's no contentious people going through garbage or going through them and recalculating them. It was already done by 2 individuals and double checked, so I'm sure that will be. This is just normal practice, but if there's any questions, feel free to ask them. Is there any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion on the table to destroy the ballots. We'll first, yes?
Should we not first resolve the motion current and then destroy the ballots?
Sure, I will take that correction, and it seems like the person who moved it is okay with that. So we'll go to this motion now. Be it resolved that Luke McIntosh, Nikki Demansky, Jesse McGinnis, and David Birnbaum and Prashant Kumar Patel fill the non-executive seats on the Board of Directors for May 1st, 2013 until April 30th, 2014. Is there any other discussion on this? The votes have already been cast. All those in favor? It just needs to be approved formally. Okay, all those against? Okay, none against. All those who'd like to abstain and be noted? Okay, 57 in favor, 0 against. It passes. So, yeah? So those are your new board members starting May 1st. The next thing on the agenda is the approval of the new bylaws. Wait. We did have that motion by David Collins, seconded by Devin Drury to destroy the ballots. We'll go back to that motion now. Is there any other discussion on destroying the ballots? No other discussion? Okay. Is there anybody against destroying the ballots? Please raise your placard if you're against destroying the ballots. Okay, I'll see that as unanimous. So the next thing on the agenda now is the approval of the new bylaws. Be it resolved that the bylaws attached replace the current bylaws with the proviso that all sections relating to the services, committees, and commissions be converted into policies within the Students' Council. So I have the pleasure of presenting. So I'm going to pass the role of speaker and chair over to another director as per what is allowed in our bylaws. So I'm going to pass it over to Adam Garcia to manage at that time so that I can answer questions and then Adam can handle the who gets to speak and all that kind of stuff.
Thank you. Do you have a presentation?
Yes.
Go ahead. Okay. So, sorry, we're looking for a mover on this motion. Jesse McGinnis. And seconded by Liz McFall. Thank you. Do you have a presentation?
Yes, I do have a presentation. I'm going to take the liberty to present now. Could I ask someone to scroll through for me? Can you do that, Adam? Okay. Kumar, can you get the laptop battery from your, or thanks. Okay, so I'll just go through the bylaws. Just in summary, these bylaws aren't a big change from anything. In terms of they've just been made more concise, more articulate in places that lacked clarity before.